Hello, I'm Dr. Anjana Khatwa and I'm an earth scientist. Over the next couple of months I'm going to be creating a short series of videos called Jurassicgirl Journeys, and in these videos I'm going to be exploring the rural landscape as a BAME person. I'll be talking about my experiences, my observations and my feelings as a person of colour in the rural environment. This first video explores a walk I did today from Corfe Castle to Swanage. I've been living in Dorset now for about 15 years, and the thing about living in Dorset is you are spoilt for choice with all the beautiful walks across the countryside and the coast. Today, on this very cold Saturday morning, I've decided to walk from Corfe Castle all the way to Swanage, and I've actually downloaded a National Trust trail to help me make that walk. Behind me is the visitor centre that tells you all about Corfe Castle, and if you want to see the castle itself, it's there right behind me. Beautiful, beautiful, absolutely beautiful structure. Now on today's walk, not only will I be following my instructions for how to get to Swanage, but I'll also be kind of recording and recounting my experiences as a BAME person in the rural landscape. So let's head off. So here I am, just at the edge of Corfe Castle. It's a National Trust property, so you need to have National Trust membership or buy entry to explore the castle grounds itself. You can see it in the background, it really is rather stunning. So far lots of families on the walk this morning, no other BAME people, but yeah, let's just see what's to come as we continue on our walk to Swanage. So you can see the gorgeous Corfe Castle just behind me over there in the distance. And now where I'm walking is up along the top of the Purbeck Ridge, and it's been a really interesting experience for me so far as a BAME person walking in the rural landscape. We've passed a few people, they've all been white, they all have been extremely friendly and welcoming, and in fact we did pass some young people. Well, in my eyes they were young, they were probably in their early 20s, and they were going off mountain biking across the ridge. But in my mind I was thinking about people of BAME origin walking this landscape and how they would feel. I think if you were not from Dorset or living in a rural landscape and you were out here walking this trail, you might feel a heightened sense of awareness of your presence in the landscape, and that might make you feel slightly unsettled. Part of the trail that got me to here to this point went across the back of some properties, and although, you know, we weren't crossing over the land, it was a public footpath, I think if you weren't kind of experienced walking in the countryside, you would worry that you would be trespassing on somebody's property. And I think being a BAME person, I think your awareness of crossing onto places where perhaps you aren't welcome is heightened, particularly in a rural landscape where there are so few brown and black faces around you. And now I'm going to continue walking along the Purbeck Ridge towards Swanage. Now behind me you can see stretched out is Poole Harbour, and just behind it is the conurbation of Poole and Bournemouth. You can see the twinkling white buildings in the sunshine. Now Poole and Bournemouth are the largest urban centres within Dorset and are home to quite a large range of diverse communities. So the question I'm asking myself now is, you know, up until this point I am still the only BAME person walking on the trail today. Now that might not be surprising because it is early February, it's freezing cold, so who would want to be out on a day like this? Of course I would choose to do this any day of the year, but I think the question we have to ask ourselves in terms of diverse communities and their access to the countryside is literally those communities are a hop, skip and a jump away from this beautiful environment. I mean, perhaps the story might be different in July and August when the weather's a bit better and children and families are on holiday together, but you know, the question still remains, you know, do diverse communities know about this walk? Would they come here? Would they be able to access it? And that's kind of what I've been thinking about as I've been doing this walk all day today. So I walked across the Purbeck Ridge and down and then up again to the top of Ballard Down, which was quite a challenging climb. There were 210 steps, which was rather exhausting. And in my mind I'm thinking about accessibility really. If you're a BAME person or anybody really that finds it difficult to kind of walk across kind of steep terrain, that would be quite an intimidating walk. And I think it's it's something that people have to consider when they're going out into rural environments, is that the terrain can often present a challenge, and that in itself is an obstacle to access beautiful places like this. Now, for those of you expecting Jurassicgirl to talk about geology, here we are. I'm kind of standing on the edge of Ballard Down, and behind me you can just about see, peeking out through that cliff face, is the edge of Old Harry Rocks, and this is the easternmost end of the Jurassic Coast World Heritage Site. The rocks here date back about 65 million years ago, and they are beautiful, sparkling white in the sunshine today. Now, chalk, this is a rock that's behind me, it's made up of the billions and billions of dead bodies of microscopic algae called coccolithopores. Now, during the Cretaceous, this part of the world was dominated by warm tropical seas, and in those seas there were these coccolithopores living and surviving, and as they died, their bodies and indeed their detritus settled down at the bottom of the seabed. Now, layer upon layer of these dead bodies of these organisms eventually built up to form these incredible sequences of chalk that you can see behind me. So I finally made it here to Swanage, all the way from where I started in Corfe Castle, and behind me you can see the beautiful chalk cliffs of Ballard Down. Now, obviously I've had an interesting experience today, just feeling my own observations really about a BAME person in the rural landscape, and two things really came to mind. One was this sense of isolation that I felt. Not one person that I met on the walk was a person of colour, and I think the effect that had on me was just that sense of, I am literally the only person of colour walking in this landscape today, or it felt like that anyway from what I could see, and that filled me with somewhat feelings of sadness, but also kind of feelings of slightly being exposed, because I was, you know, literally the only brown face in the landscape. The other feeling that it left me with was a feeling of sadness, because today is such a beautiful day. It is cold, I'll admit that, but the sun is out, it's not raining. You need a good warm coat and you need some decent kind of boots to wear because it's a little bit muddy in places. But I just thought, isn't this a wonderful landscape? Isn't it beautiful? And shouldn't more people have access to this fantastic place? And I think the fact that I didn't see more diverse faces on my walk today, it just kind of felt quite sad to me. Kind of, it left me feeling a little sense of melancholy, that I was left thinking, what could we do? How could we help more diverse people enjoy what I've enjoyed today, but also how do we open it up to them? And I think these are questions that we will continue to explore as we address the real critical issues in the Glover Landscapes Review.